Hello everyone, and welcome to my second Avowed character build, the Bloodied Blade. This soldier wields his mighty greatsword to devastating effect, carving huge welts into his opponents. Any who can survive his furious onslaught will surely perish from their wounds. The attributes to focus on with this build are Might, Constitution, and Resolve. These will give you more damage, more health, and more stamina, which are exactly the kind of straightforward stats a build like this can make good use of. I'd recommend trying to build each of these up to 10 for the endgame, and still put a point or two elsewhere beyond that, as the stats do offer diminishing returns as they hit higher levels. Onto the ability section now, where I'll go over the fighter skills, then the ranger ones, and finally the wizard section too. The very first skill you'll want to get your hands on is Charge. With this maxed out, you're able to easily close the distance with foes and build up a lot of their stun bar as you do so. We then have Armoured Grace, which I sunk a couple of points into. This decreases the stamina penalty while wearing medium or heavy armour. Like most skills in Avowed, you get diminishing returns for more points you spend, hence I didn't max this out, but every rank is still helpful, as stamina is such a critical combat component. I also picked up a rank of Constant Recovery, which allows you to slowly regenerate half of the health you lose from an attack. I find that this really isn't an ability you can rely on to keep going during a battle, but it will passively give you a little bit of health regen here and there. A rank of Toughness gives a 20% health boost. As a warrior class style of character, you're going to want to have as much health as you can get your hands on, as you're pretty much guaranteed to take a bunch of hits in combat. Probably the most flavourful of all the perks we'll be grabbing is Bleeding Cuts. This makes it so that power attacks with axes and greatswords deal bleed accumulation. Honestly, with the sheer number of ways this build can dish out bleed damage, you probably don't need to invest fully into this perk like I did, but it's definitely worth getting at least a single rank in order to make your power attacks just a bit more deadly. Brawn, on the other hand, is a skill you definitely will want to max out. With 3 points invested, you get a 50% damage boost with two-handed melee weapons, which is what you wield. Our second activated ability is Into the Fray. This allows you to pull an enemy towards you, which is great for splitting up clusters of enemies and isolating a single target. Use this skill to pick out your opponents in a fight and take them down one-on-one. Next skill is Retribution. This will grant you a temporary damage boost after taking damage yourself. It's a brilliant skill for when you're in an extended fight with many opponents. You're going to end up getting hit from time to time, so may as well get some benefit from taking those hits. Penultimate of the fighter skills is Clear Out. This active skill may cost triple the essence of the previous two we picked up, but it's well worth the added price. This perk makes you spin in a whirlwind of death, which will greatly damage nearby enemies. This is the perfect skill to activate whenever you get surrounded, in order to clear you an escape route, or potentially just kill several foes at once. I had a single rank in the footage you're watching, but the more ranks, the better. Final perk in the fighter tree is Inspiring Triumph. This restores health to companions whenever you get a kill. Considering most fights in Avowed are against groups of enemies, you're definitely going to proc this perk quite often, meaning your followers will keep on getting healed. On to the ranger skills now, starting with Parry. This allows you to do a perfectly timed block with your sword, in order to negate the attack and briefly stagger your opponent, opening them up for a deadly counterattack. Parrying is such a cool thing to do, and I absolutely loved getting counterattacks when playing this build. And once you have this skill, you can then purchase the linked skill, Arrow Deflection. This lets you block arrows and other projectiles by timing your block just right. Once again, very cool, though not quite as practical as the standard parry is. Instead, you might just want to rely on the final ranger skill, Evasive. This reduces the stamina cost of dodging, which is pretty much always going to be your best way to avoid damage. I didn't pick up any wizard skills, so we can now move on to equipment. The main weapon for this build is the Horse Cutter. This unique greatsword is strong, fast, and dishes out bleed damage. With the Cull the Herd enchantment upgraded, it can also deal area bleed and stun whenever you do a free swing combo. Given that greatswords are the fastest of the two-handed weapons, this isn't too tricky to land. The added speed is also important for bleed accumulation, as the more hits you can land, the faster you build up status effects. For a secondary weapon, I picked up Limb Taker. This great axe is also all about bleed accumulation. And while it does have higher base damage and stun, I just found that the slower swing speed made it a less effective weapon for general use. If you prefer axes to swords though, then this weapon may be a better fit for you. The armour piece I went with was the Wayfarer's Armour. This is a unique piece of heavy armour which regenerates your health when at low health, and boosts movement speed too. Heavy armour means you're going to be fairly tough and able to withstand plenty of hits, which is the real priority for the armour piece. While health regen does sound nice, I personally found that the extra move speed was the more helpful of the effects, letting you close the distance on enemies quicker and weave through the battlefield that bit faster. For clothing, we start off with the Braces of Bloodletting. This is the blood build, so obviously we have to go with the clothing items which ensure that every attack you make dishes out bleed damage. Also boost parkour speed, though that's less thematic. On our feet we wear the Sentinel Boots, which boost both health and stamina. Pretty straightforward bonuses here, but still incredibly helpful ones to have for a melee build. Onto jewellery now, where the focus should be on boosting attack and defence. I had the Talk of the Warrior King as my amulet, granting me a boost to might, which in turn provides a damage boost. My first ring was the Ring of Minor Deflection, which gives a 3% increase to damage reduction, making it so this character immediately negates a third of any incoming damage. The second ring, which is the Valiant Dueling Ring, gives you a chance to entirely avoid melee damage. 7% may not seem like that high a chance to occur, but it does make it so that every once in a while an attack does absolutely nothing to you, which would otherwise have a 0% chance of occurring. This character is an out-and-out melee build. While you can just slash away your enemies over and over until their health bar empties out, you're sometimes better off relying on the bleed build-up to finish them off. With the amount of effects that increase bleed accumulation, it doesn't take many hits to get the damage over time to start working, so you can just take a couple of swings at each enemy, get the bleed to start its work, and then move on to the next foe and repeat this process again. By allowing the bleed to finish off enemies, you can potentially take down groups much faster than you would if you had to rely purely on direct damage. While bleeding is the theme of this build, it's certainly not the only weapon in your arsenal. The fast swing speed of your sword means you have strong DPS, and the parry skill is great for one-on-one fights against melee opponents. Your activated abilities can also help you control the battlefield. Charge lets you quickly close the distance, Into the Fray can bring an enemy to you, and Clear Out allows you to handle being surrounded. With all of these elements combined, you should be able to handle anything the game throws at you. When playing as this character, I chose the war hero background and roleplayed as a soldier through and through. I tried to approach this playthrough in the mindset of someone who has spent years fighting for the Empire and has always been loyal to them, and I found this a fun alternate playthrough from what I've been doing before. Now this doesn't mean you have to play as a pure heartless loyalist, doing whatever adherents tell you to do, regardless of the morality of it all, but I did find it fun to play as a character who felt like they should be doing whatever they can to advance the Empire, even if they felt conflicted about their specific actions. The war hero background provides plenty of dialogue options to fit in with this vibe, and by focusing more on combat than talking, you can push this mentality even further. Always take the most direct route, and feel free to choose the attack option whenever it shows up. I hope you all enjoyed that build. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more builds like this, and leave a comment below with any other Avowed content you'd like to see. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed, and you can even become a Patreon supporter if you're feeling extra generous. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.